Are you all set?
Let's give it a shot.
Well, good morning, everybody. Can I say it that way? Welcome to the Wrap. It's Saturday morning. It's about 9:30-ish, and we're going to let her rip again.
We're at the Muni, and the place is just packed.
We're back at the Muni. Last week, somebody asked me if we recorded the show at a prison. They said it looked like a prison. No. I'm like, well, no, not exactly. So, but we're back where we're supposed to be, I guess, or something.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Shall we talk football to start?
Let's give it right off the bat.
So, what sticks out most in your mind from last week of the 4 games that we watched? Which one?
You know, I've been spending. I got up this morning and Jason Kelce has a late night talk show.
I saw that this morning when I was up watching tennis.
It's hysterical. And I didn't know that Kelce had that much talent, but he's a stand-up type guy, and so I was watching that, and I'm thinking about this and that and another thing, and of course, you might not believe this, but he's really pulling for the Eagles.
No.
And I'm sitting around, and after watching the Eagles, they weren't as consistent last week as I've seen them throughout the year, and the team that really is kind of knocked me in the head is Washington has improved game in and game out. So I'm going to go with the upset on there, and I think the Commanders are going to take the old guys out, and the only key is Saquon Barkley. If Saquon is as good as he can be, that is a big thorn in the Commanders' side.
I got to go back to last week because I want to talk. I think that the 2 games that were the 2 teams that we're talking about were very interesting in the fact that it almost seemed like Washington beat Detroit at Detroit's game. But
I think so too. Yeah.
They ran the ball. They got a defensive pick for 6. They outscored the Lions, and the Lions made a few boo-boos, few turnovers, and Washington took full advantage, and the rest is kind of history. The Washington's playing out of their mind right now. Philly, I hate to say it, I think they lucked out. The Rams were down 13 points with 4 minutes to go. It looks like it's over. Matter of fact, Buck, I think it was who was doing the game. Or no, not Buck. Fox was doing it anyway. He said, and they're off to the conference championship game when Barkley slid into the end zone and did what he did. And about 2 minutes later, he was ready to eat his words because all of a sudden, here come the Rams. They're driving down the field, and that game could be being played in L.A. rather than being played in Philly.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But it's like I say, Washington, they had to convince me that they were this good, and they've been doing that for the last half of the season, and they're a pretty good football team, defensively and offensively. And so
I agree with you. I think there are 2 teams right now. I think Washington's playing very hot and believes that they could beat anybody, but then you got Philadelphia, who's a lot of these guys have been there before and played in these big games, and I don't think a lot of them are going to get lost in the moment like Washington could get lost in the moment just because it's their first year back in the playoffs in a while, and et cetera, and they're playing in Philly. The game would be outdoors either way, so though I don't think, weather wouldn't be a concern. Somebody's not saying, well, they're coming from Miami and they're playing in the cold or snow or whatever they're going to have in Philly tomorrow. But I'm picking Washington to win this thing.
Right now,
I can't go against them.
Jayden Daniels, a rookie, he really actually starting to epitomize the modern NFL quarterback. He moves well, he throws well, he seems to have a great attitude on and off.
You mean the non-Viking quarterback?
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to throw that dig in there.
But Jayden Daniels is a really, really good quarterback and a good football player. And, for him to be a rookie to play in the NFC Championship game, you'd think, But that's where Hurts was just a little bit
They
ago.
were talking about it last week that he didn't seem to be shook by the moment
No.
at all. The fact that they were taking on Detroit, the number 1 seed, 15-2, blah 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 blah. Let's go on and on. Like I said, did not seem to be shook by the moment, and that's, I would say, rare, because we believe that our quarterback, who's been in the league for 7 years, got shook pretty hard the last 2 weeks of the season. The Vikings quarterback,
and I think he kind of did, but he really hadn't been. He hadn't really been with a powerful team, a contending team, and I think he felt that weight on his shoulders, and that took care of that. But Saquon Barkley they are reaffirming the idea of a running back. And if he gets chucking, boy, he is going to be hard to stop. And so this is the key.
Somehow, some way, the Eagles knew something about the Rams' defense, that they were able to run the ball on them, unlike what the Vikings could not do.
No.
Like I said, Barkley might have something, quote unquote, to do with that. But there also, I think, maybe is an offensive line in place there. And somebody said to me the other night at the basketball game, the Vikings need to draft some linemen. They got to quit worrying about these other spots. They got to draft some lines so that we can do what we need to do. And I'm like, somebody else has saw the light.
We have been saying that between you and I for years, and that's the key to the whole situation.
There we go.
They showed some college practice video of Saquon Barkley playing at Penn State. He was incredible. He was bouncing off these great big defensive tackles. They had nothing, and he wasn't going anywhere. He just bang, 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 and then he's gone. And it's just like he was a freshman when they showed this, and the coaches were standing by saying, "What do we have here?" And now we know, because there's two really great running backs in this league, and he is definitely one of them.
Well, this game that we've been talking about since the start of the show is kind of the appetizer, I think most people would say, to the big game, the game that is going to be at Arrowhead, Kansas City playing in their 7th straight AFC Championship game. If that's hard to fathom in itself, that somebody's playing in the AFC Championship game 7 consecutive times, but they're taking on the Bills, and the Bills, well, they took care of the Ravens last week.
It's one of those things where, you would think that somewhere along the line I'd learn that the Kansas City Chiefs can't really be beaten the big games. Well, I'm not so sure of that, because I think the Bills are going to take this one, and they're playing very, very well, and they've got good quarterback, they got good defense, their offensive line is working real well.
And it'll depend upon how the refs feel about the game, because we saw last week that Patrick Mahomes doesn't even need to get hit, and he can get a 15-yard penalty called against the other team.
He didn't even get hit. They missed him completely. Yeah, no, he's a superstar. They watch out for the superstars.
Yeah, the non-Kansas City Chief fans, the naysayers, have been for years saying how the referees have protected Mahomes and the Chiefs. Last weekend, I think we got a full dose of it. I'm being serious. I think, as much as the NFL would like to have dynasty written all over this, I got a feeling that the Chiefs aren't going to maybe get the calls tomorrow that they maybe have gotten in the past 18, 19 weeks. So I picked the Bills a couple of weeks ago. I'm staying with the Bills to win in Arrowhead, and it's kind of scary.
This just might be the Bills' year, and I am calling the Super Bowl of being the Washington Commanders and the Buffalo Bills, and I will pick the Bills out of that one. But
I would too. But I'd love to see them go 0-5, so that the Vikes would only be 0-4. I'm just saying. So let's talk about Monday night's little football game from Atlanta. Looked like Ohio State was going to completely run away with it, and then Notre Dame decided maybe we should play a little football here in the second half.
Well, and it's just, what I kind of like to talk about, because I read an article about things in the locker room, Notre Dame's locker room at the end of the game was not at all cool.
Okay.
And they had all kinds of words for the media and the reporters that were in the room that were asking all the hard questions, and apparently a lot of screaming and a lot of shouting. But this is the pressure we put on these young people to go in there in a national championship game in which, well, amongst other things, the prestige for your school and all like that, but a ton of money involved. And it's, and so I could see the pressure on Coach Freeman. You could see the pressure on both sides of the ball, and Ryan Day the same way. The pressure was there. But we kind of knew that, again, Ohio State, after the Michigan game, has been playing very, very well. And you would contend that they learned their lesson from the Michigan game. And they did not allow any kind of gaps in their defense or actually for their offense.
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in getting kicked in the teeth every once in a while just to re-hone and resharpen the knife, so to speak. And like I said, for Ohio State, that was exactly it. When you have that much talent on a team, Ohio State, and there's all kinds of schools that have lots and lots and lots of talent, don't get me wrong, but Ohio State has that upper crust talent every year. It's just the way it's going to be probably forever, because they'll keep raising money because those people will keep throwing their dollars into the NIL, and it's just the way it is.
And they're going to keep on picking up every wide receiver talent in the country, the best. I mean, I can't believe the amount of receivers that school has been able to utilize, and it's the same way now. And so, and
it's only going to get more because everybody wants to go play for a national champion, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, like I said, when it got to 31-7, Eli and I were sitting there watching the game, and I told him, well, I said, this thing could end up 55-7. And boy, did it not. Not turn out to be that way.
Yeah.
I thought Ohio State was absolutely going to cruise. They had to kick that field goal. It was 28-7, and they had to kick the field goal rather than score after the turnover. And it almost, the fact that they had to settle for that field goal almost took the balloon air out of the balloon. It looked like a little bit following it. It was kind of like, geez, guys, you're up 24 points, but maybe the defense put a little on cruise control. Maybe the defensive coordinator pulled back a little bit. Then as an offensive coordinator, you're going, well, we're up 24. Let's bleed some clock out of this thing. Let's shorten the game up. So all of a sudden you stop maybe doing the things that you did. Will Howard's mom, the quarterback for Ohio State, she was celebrating at 31-7, and when it was 31-23, she was like this, holding her face together, and I'm like, the emotions that a parent or anybody runs through in a game.
And there's so much speed on the team that scores can come very quickly, and do. And it's so, I thought it was a real good game. There was no doubt about it that Ohio State is national champions. I don't know who else. I mean, they've whipped everybody that they had to whip, and that includes a good Tennessee team, and
that goes all the way back to that.
It goes all the way back to that.
I'm going to change gears a little bit because we brought up 3 points during that football conversation that I want to go back to something that I got up in the middle of the night to watch, and I'm talking about tennis. And so the women's final from Australia was on this morning.
It was.
And Madison Keys, maybe a lot of people who don't follow tennis have never heard of Madison Keys from the United States. She was a phenom. She turned pro when she was 13.
Oh, that's right. She was young, wasn't she?
And she kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of failed, i.e. like Sam Darnold. And last night she took on the pressures of life and took down the number one player in the world. Matter of fact, not only did she take down the number one player in the world last night, but she beat number 2 nights ago. She beat number 6 4 nights ago, and she beat number 10 like 10 days ago.
And what's she rated?
She's rated 19th.
Yeah.
But she's going to move into the top 10. So you talked about old Sam Darnold and learning the lessons and collapsing on himself. And last night, Madison Keys had every reason to collapse on herself. and she didn't, and she pulled out a big win and won the Australian Open. It was for her. It was for American tennis. To me, it's a big deal. She beat Aryna Sabalenka, who was the number 2 player in the world, but she was the number 1 seed because she's the best hardcourt player in the world. And after the match, she took her racket and, well, for lack of a better term, she destroyed it on the court. And so you got me thinking about Notre Dame and the sour grapes and all of that stuff that's going on there. So even the top players in the world can melt down and have bad days. And
so what about your buddy Djokovic?
Well, we'll talk about that one more point.
Okay.
One more point. So Sabalenka doesn't get the three-peat. She doesn't win 3 in a row. So does that mean Kansas City doesn't get 3 Super Bowl championships in a row? Anyway, enough of that.
And just not that, as long as we're back there, Kansas City won an undefeated season, and 3 quarters into the season, they thought that they could do this. They could swing that. And you know that that's very, very difficult to do in that league. And and once they started, as soon as they said undefeated season, things started going south for them. And it's that's not the best Kansas City football team I've seen.
No, I agree with you. I agree. They've been winning it with smoke and mirrors, as they say. Yeah. So your friend Djokovic, he had an injury. It was interesting. In the quarterfinals, he's taking on Carlos Alcaraz, who I believe is going to be the next Rafa Nadal. Not that he ticks me off like Rafa Nadal, but he's going to win 15, 20 majors. He's going to be that good. He's going to be around for a while. Djokovic leaves goes to the locker room. They give him a bunch of pain pills and maybe gave him a shot. I don't know. They didn't say. They just said they gave him pain medicine. So you don't know if that's oral or injected. And then Djokovic came out and played out of his mind for the next 3 sets and beat Alcaraz, which, whatever. So then Djokovic comes out for the semis and he's got his thigh wrap, which was the injury. And I read it that he said even if he would have won the first set against Zverev, he might have walked off, or it would have been very difficult to win. Kind of insinuated that. Djokovic was going. Here's why I don't think it's a ruse. And the people booed him. And he and Danielle Collins from the United States, women's player, decided that they were going to start taking on the Aussie crowd during the first week with the thumbs up and the cheeky stuff and all this other, for lack of a better term. And they basically were egging the crowd on. So for Djokovic to get booed, Zverev said it wasn't cool that the fans booed him. He basically asked for, I think Djokovic asked for. Djokovic was not taking this lightly. He was going for an 11th Australian Open championship, which may never be tied, broken, whatever. He was also going for a 25th Grand Slam, and to be frank, that's the record. Margaret Court's got 24. He's got 24. That would put him on top. Going to get the next one at the French Open on clay is not going to be easy. Playing on grass.
He's 37 years old now, too.
He's 37 years old, and playing on the grass at Wimbledon will not be simple because obviously there are challenges there. And then you get back to the U.S. Open. So his career clock is ticking just a bit. And so the fact that he walked off, I don't think he took that lightly. I think he probably was really injured, despite how I feel about that. So
no, and the fact of it is that the man is a definable champion and has been since he was a teenager, and and so you don't boo people like that.
Yeah, like I said, he asked for it a little bit. Like I said, playing to the crowd. Blowing kisses to certain parts of the crowd and egging them on during the rounds, and so. Champions shouldn't act like that. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
But that's how he motivates himself. That's how he gets himself going. Me against the world. Me against everybody's against me. I'm poor Novak Djokovic. I've only won 24 majors, and everybody still hates me. Well, you do stupid things and act like a.
Well, he's not a very likable guy. He's just a very good tennis player.
He's a very good tennis player. Men's championship, 2:45 Sunday morning. Yannick Sinner, the number 1 player in the world, against Alexander Zverev, who got the walkover against Djokovic. Sinner beat American Ben Shelton, as I mentioned on last week's show. American tennis is having a wall at the Australian Open. So number 1 versus number 2, just like it's supposed to be. And I'm gonna say that Zverev, who is maybe the 2nd or 3rd best player in the world on hard court, gets his first major. He's had his issues as well, some stuff that I'm sure. Well, anyway, it's going to be fun. I probably won't get up at 2:45, but I might get up at like 4 o'clock and catch.
See how it's turning on?
Wow, that was the thing this morning. I did wake up at 2:45 to see the start of the match, and I must have fallen asleep. No, I not only must I not fall asleep, I did, because I missed the whole first set, and I woke up and I'm like, what?
What happened?
And I picked up my thing and I'm like, oh my gosh, I did fall asleep for an hour. Anyway, it was great tennis. If you, I know it's on replay this morning, but fun to watch, good tennis. And Madison Keys, who had melted under moments in her career, shined like a big shining light, and it was good for her. So let's go for men's basketball, because
Let's do that. Two in a row.
what the beep is going on?
They were up 17 points at the beginning of the second half.
Iowa.
They were crushing Iowa, beating
At Iowa. Not at home, at Iowa.
They were cooking Hawkeyes, and then of course Iowa came back and almost stole it from them. But you had some good play, not only from, I think that Dawson Garcia has really taken over command of that team. I'm not sure he's done that.
Andy Katz said last night on the Big Ten Live or whatever it is, said he's an all Big Ten player right now.
Yeah, I think he is too.
That's out of 18 teams that he's an all Big Tenner. And I'm like, wow, that's saying. And Andy Katz, who used to work for ESPN, who now works for the Big Ten Network, that's saying something, I think.
And the other one was that I've really been enjoying watching, and he's starting to get a little bit more ink, is Frankie Mitchell. I mean, he was pulling down rebounds. I'm not even sure he scored.
He didn't.
But he had all kinds of rebounds, and he clogged up that lane and took care of some of those big guys. I enjoy watching it. It's like watching a football player play basketball.
He's a large lad.
Yeah.
He's thick.
Yeah.
We've talked about it more than once on this show about how poorly the Gophers shoot free throws. And every time that Iowa was trying to get back into the game, they were following these guys.
Yeah.
And they'd show their free throw percentage down in the corner of the screen. And it was 36%, 37%, 41%. And then they would shoot these free throws. And honest to God, people, they were the ugliest free throws ever, but they'd fall in. They were hitting the metal piece that holds the thing on the backboard. It would hit the backboard, sound like a brick hitting pavement.
How many went up in the air and came back down?
Some of them didn't even bounce. They were so dead. They just fell back into the basket.
Well, Big Frank, he did score. He hit both sides of a 1-on-1, I believe.
Yeah, he could have. That might have been the previous game he didn't score.
And so he had those two free throws, and that really what stuck it to Iowa. And it's just it was so much fun to watch. I was screaming and shouting. The solarium was rocking and rolling. It was.
I got to watch about the last 6 minutes. Is all I got to see. So it was already white knuckle time, because they were already coming. Iowa was on the comeback trail, and it went right in.
They're gonna play Oregon this afternoon.
Number 15 Oregon.
Number 15 Oregon at the barn. And
Andy Katz said they got a good chance to make it 3 in a row, and I almost threw up. I couldn't believe he said it.
Let me ask you this: do you think that this surge by the Gophers was absolutely necessary for Ben Johnson to keep his job?
Absolutely.
It is.
100%. There's no doubt.
There's no doubt about it.
He probably has saved his job with these 2 wins by beating Iowa on the road and beating number 20 at the time. If he wins, beats Oregon today, we'll probably crown him king. He'll be the new PJ Fleck. We'll give him. Did you? I saw this. Frank Beamer's son, Shane Beamer. I had to think about it. He's the head coach at South Carolina for football.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina had a pretty good season.
They did.
He got a raise
How much?
to $8.15 million per year.
Yeah, you see, that's pretty good.
8.15. And I'm not
You
saying
coached for a lot of years. You never even came close to that.
I never came close to like 8.15 thousand, much million. Anyway, it just stunned me when I saw the graphic. Men's honestly, 3 weeks ago on this show I told you I didn't want to talk about the Gophers men's basketball anymore because it was going to be awful. If they beat Oregon today,
anything can happen.
I might eat one of these darts over here or something. I don't know. I'm baffled. I don't know. Like we talked about, they had this coming to Jesus party after the the hour-long talk with the team and whatever else. Maybe they got their
Jesus must have been listening. But they are playing really well. They're going scrap hard. I mean, they put Azuma in the game about 5 minutes into the first half. And bam, he goes right to the bucket. And all of a sudden, the Gophers had a spark. He only got one other basket that game. But he took command of that and went to the bucket, got himself a nice little layup. And from that point in time, it always seemed like the Gophers were playing with a level of energy that you have to play in that league. I mean, people, the Big Ten basketball is tough sport. It's as tough as it is in football, and it's it's an amazing game for them to win 2 in a row and then beat Iowa. First time since 2015
in Iowa,
which is 10 years. It was really fun to watch, and I will be watching this afternoon.
I'm going to throw another head scratcher because number 24 women's basketball team from Minnesota went on the road last week, Maryland, and lost. I'm thinking about that, right? I hope maybe I got it wrong. And no, it was Maryland on Monday, right?
It was Maryland on
or
Monday,
Sunday, whatever it was. And then they won at home later in the week on Wednesday, I think it was. So here's the point I'm trying to make. They were number 24 last week. They went 1-1, and they moved up to 23 in the nation.
Well, what can you say? I mean, they're still 17-3, and they're 5-3 in the Big Ten, so they've not lost a game to any other team outside the Big Ten.
Yeah, you look at that schedule outside the Big Ten. If they lose to those teams, there should be an investigation. Don, you'd lose your job if you lost to Coppin State and Coastal Carolina. Anyway,
well,
I'm just saying.
They got Wisconsin this morning or this afternoon at 2:00 on BTN Plus, and we we like beating the Cheeseheads. We all agree on that one.
So. Yeah, I think we knew that she was going to be able to do some things. Don, the head coach, I won't even. Pluzweit, I think is how you pronounce the last name. I'm butchering it probably. Anyway, having said that, Gopher women's basketball team is having a nice season.
Well, we're not talking. And they lost they lost a couple of kids.
A couple of their better players.
A couple of their better players, and so it's nice to see that, and they're putting some people into, and we have to admit that one of the reasons that we call a team success is how many people are putting in the stands. And this afternoon, that Oregon game, there's going to be more people in the stands as when they played Michigan, and the women are going to start be putting some more people in the stands too, because they got a really good team and they play good style basketball. They're fun to watch. So
I agree.
Hey, it's nice to see basketball come alive at the Bard.
South Carolina hosted LSU last night in women's basketball. Got a lot of love on ESPN this morning on SportsCenter after the tennis got over. And South Carolina beat LSU for the 17th consecutive, some astronomical number out there. But our good friend, and why can I not think of her name, the head coach at LSU who was at Baylor. I can't think of her name right now. She came on, they had her in the post-game interview, and she basically said...
This outfit on?
She had on, she did, oh God. Anyway, come on. Doesn't matter. Anyway, she goes, here's the thing, folks. They beat us. We lost, she says. That's a good team. She goes, they've got 10 McDonald's All-Americans on that team. And she goes, and how do they keep them all happy? How do you keep, I mean, these are All-Americans who are superstars. 5 of those got to come off the bench. She's keeping them happy. So there's something to be said about Dawn Staley and what she's doing with that women's team. And they're only ranked number 2 in the nation. And we'll see what happens when UCLA and South Carolina or whoever meet somewhere down the line in late March or early April. It'll be fun to see. Gopher Wrestling won big at Wisconsin. 37-3 or 39-3. I can't.
39-3.
I didn't write it down.
Penn State. I watched them just wrap up Rutgers, which has a pretty good wrestling team, and Kirkfeld at heavyweight won 3-0, I believe, but it was a tight heavyweight match. And I think what you're taking a look at is 2 and 3 heavyweights in the Big Ten, because I know who number 1 is. And it's
What's his name again? I can't see him.
Yeah, Mr. Gable, and he is it's so dominating that and Kirkfeld was a half a step behind him, but I think Gable has he's improved that much. He is that dominant. If either one of those guys can beat Gable, they more than deserve to be Big Ten champions. But I just don't see it happening. And Max down at 184 pounds, redshirt freshman, he's kicking butt and taking names. And so I think you're going to see 6, maybe 7, maybe even 8 in the Big Ten tournaments that are going to do well. They'll place. Okay. I think they're on light to maybe have 4 All-Americans out of this bunch.
I think we're only like 6 weeks away from that.
We're not far away.
I mean, we're talking playoffs for winter sports coming up here, so not in the too far future. No. You're digging for something.
Well, I was looking at this LSU team, and it's
you're looking for coach's name.
Muckley. Kim Muckley.
Oh.
Mulkey.
Kim Mulkey. Ay. Yeah. Anywho, she's home. She's home. She's there. How about your? As long as we're kind of still talking basketball, how about your Timberwolves beating the Dallas Mavs the other night?
Well, the Timberwolves,
and then they get the Nugs today on ABC at 2 o'clock. How are you going to get the Gophers in the?
They're not.
And it's hockey day in Minnesota.
It is. The Timberwolves are not playing that well. They're missing free throws. They're not hitting the big things. My good friend.
They're an 8-cylinder car that's running on about 6.
Yeah, that's about right. And and I'm not quite sure what they're gonna wind up coming up with here. But Anthony Edwards has to have some help on that team. And in fact, if he doesn't get it, he gets worse. And so he's. Are you
saying that there's a trade coming?
I wouldn't trade him.
No, I'm not saying trade Anthony Edwards. I'm saying that there's a trade coming to make things right.
I think Conley is on his last season, and I'm not so sure about Rudy.
I think they are going to make a trade for a point guard, because they know, unfortunately, Mike. As much as I think Mike Conley is awesome, he is now a backup. He can't play 34 minutes a night. It's not going to work.
Also, I've noticed that they put in Luka's been playing quite a bit lately, and why not? He's 7 feet tall. He's a great big guy. He's an All-American. He should be able to work in that lineup a little bit.
Iowa, but anyway,
I know he's from Iowa, but he's from Minnesota now.
I was swearing. The Wolves. They said in the paper the other day, when the Wolves beat Dallas for the preview, Dallas is only 23-20 and played in the NBA Finals last year. So shouldn't they be? I mean, are they freaking out too? Hey, all you gotta do is make the dance, and I think both of those teams are going to make the dance, get things right, and here's the Washington Commanders, right? Everybody's like, well, they were on the bubble, right?
Yeah.
Whether they were going to make the playoffs or not. for a while, and so here they're making a run.
So I see Carl Anthony. We trade over the Knicks, and he's on the first team All-Star game.
Yeah, did you see what they're doing now? Instead of having 2 games, now they got 4 teams that are going to play at the All-Star game. So they're going to kind of do like what the NBA or what the NHL does with their All-Star game, where they play 3-on-3, and they've got this division versus this division. So now the NBA is going to go to 4 teams. So that, don't take this wrong, Kat. I think that's the only reason why he's the first team All-Star is because he's been having a great year, and we knew he was good.
He's a talented basketball player.
We did not trade Karl Anthony Towns because he was a bad basketball player.
No.
He's an all-star basketball player.
And actually, and I think they, although Randall hasn't been shooting very well lately, but
DiVincenzo's got the toe injury.
He's got the toe, and so it's a tough toe to go.
It's a tough. I need to answer this text message. Where our one-act play team, or one-act play cast is the right word, is off to compete today, and at their subsection they only get to compete really once if you don't make it past subsections.
That's right.
And so they were leaving early this morning, and they turned around because of the road conditions and waited at Kaptogama. But coach just texted me and said they made it to Babbitt. I'm driving to Babbitt's
No.
That's no fun task.
That's a tough ride in the summertime.
That's a tough ride in the summertime, and so I'm glad to hear that they made it. So I'm glad she texted me to let me know that that they made it there. I was a little concerned because she texted me at 7 o'clock, a little after 7 this morning, saying we turned around because I couldn't see the road, and I'm like, woo! They hadn't plowed yet, so they backed off, plowed. Everything. Hopefully, everything's good. So.
Yes. Congratulations, kids. Go at it.
Yep. Well, your Minnesota Wild. They're playing HS at home again.
They are, and but they got Kaprizov back. He didn't score in the last game, but they got to get that scoring machine going a little bit. And I don't know the Utah Hockey Club. That's a strange name for it.
Well, this week they tried to name themselves the Yetis. Utah Yetis.
That's not good?
Well, the U.S. trademark and whatever division said that they can't have Yetis because
they got
because you got your cup, and that would be trademark infringement, so they shut that down.
I thought they were talking maybe Bigfoot was complaining, but
well, how about the Utah Bigfoots? Why not? I get the Yeti part of it. It was awesome. It would be an awesome name. But the trademark company said, or whatever, said you can't have it.
So they do Calgary next.
They got Calgary. The Wild get Calgary tonight as part of Hockey Day in Minnesota. Hibbing, who was up here on Tuesday to play our Broncos, probably is just getting done. They played at 8:30 this morning.
Well, they got Eden Prairie?
They played Eden Prairie. Yeah.
I can't believe I remembered that.
You did outstanding. Because I don't know who else is even playing on Hockey Day in Minnesota because there's too much other stuff going on.
There is an awful lot. There's one more high school game after this, and I really can't remember who it was, but hey, if this state can't celebrate hockey, it can't celebrate it. And so it's...
Well, Cloquet thought it was so important. They had Hockey Day in Cloquet a couple of weeks ago.
And so what happened with hockey last night, they played Bemidji on Parents' Night in Claquette and upset them.
Cloquet's got a nice team.
They got a nice team.
Hibbing's got a nice team. They were up here on Tuesday. A lot of old Broncos, and everybody don't judge. Old Broncos were like, wow, can this team skate and do a lot of good things? And unfortunately, Hibbing might be the third best team in the section behind Hermantown and Cloquet. So that kind of says to you what you might be dealing with. The Broncos got beat by Hibbing 8-0 on Tuesday. And the Broncos ended up with 12 shots on goal for the entire game.
Ooh, you can't score that.
So it was pretty one-sided. But I hope I can say this way for Bronco hockey fans, the team, a good lesson learned. You got to go play those teams and have that measuring stick, right? To find out where you're at. And to sharpen the knife. Didn't I say that already in this show, that you gotta sometimes you gotta get beat so you can relearn? Hey, we got to go back and focus.
Well, as long as we're talking the hockey thing, the Bulldogs upset the Pioneers last night.
Well, the girls hockey team played Prairie Center last night, picked up their third win of the season, won 5-3 last night at home. So pretty exciting senior night and all that jazz. But I did go upstairs and I turned on the TV and I turned on the Bulldog game. So every time I made a trip upstairs to make sure everything was going honky and or dory, I'd take a look. Oh my gosh, they're ahead. Well, it got to be 4-1, and then things got busy at the end of the game. You know, you're trying to get people out the door, and you got to run to the school and whatever else. And I get home, and the game's over, so I look on my phone, and they had to hang on to win 4-3 against number
3, and they pulled the goalie, and they had 6 shooters down there, and they were firing at that Bulldog goalie, and I'm thinking, they're going to tie this up and win it, because they had all the motion right then. You could just see it. But with 12 seconds left, they took a shot. It bounced off. Defenseman kind of took it down and give it a shot down the other end with 2 seconds.
Well, I'm very happy for my Bulldogs. It's been a long, tough season.
Yes,
they got a couple nice wins last week. Who the heck did they skate against last week? And why get all of a sudden brain snap? Anyway. They've won 3 in a row and seem to be playing some good hockey. That's very exciting.
It is.
Good to see. Number 1 Michigan State 9, Minnesota 3 last night.
Can you believe that?
What the heck was that?
The paper said obliterated. And that was probably about as close to that you could find.
The fact that the Gophers could give up 9 goals in a game, I don't care to who. I don't even care if they were playing a pro team.
No,
I wouldn't guess that they would give up 9.
For the number 2 team in the nation to be giving up 9 goals, that's a little bit iffy.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's great news for me. That made me happier than heck. Eli can't understand this. How can I be a Gopher fan for everything but men's hockey?
That's easy.
And I told him, I said, it's really simple. I said, we're Bulldog fans. And I said, and that you can't cheer for the Gophers in that sense. The Bulldog women's team went to St. Thomas Thursday and Friday and lost 2.
You know, I just want to take a time off and bring it up to St. Thomas. You know, they entered a new conference and they weren't going to let them be involved in the conference for 3 or 4 years. But St. Thomas came in with money and moxie and put together a strong sports program from A to Z. And I have to, you know, and I'm not a big Tommy fan, but you have to compliment them for being able to do that, to go from Division III to Division I, and to have the success.
How about Augustana under the direction of Mr. Raboin and what Garrett's doing there?
Garrett Raboin, born and raised in International Falls. Well, born anyway.
And we hope that your neighbor Bruce is doing much better. I hear he had a little to do. He had a knee replacement and he was walking or moving around on it and it
broke.
It broke.
Ooh.
So he was life flighted down. They helicoptered him to Duluth.
When was that?
Like this past week sometime.
Oh.
Tuesday, I think. So Bruce, if you're watching the show or whatever, we hope that you're feeling better. That's the first time I've ever heard of somebody getting a knee replacement and things didn't pan out.
Yeah, it's.
I don't even want to think about it. So let's move back into the sports.
Yeah, he's a heck of a guy, and he was a great coach, and he raised great kids, and he's a super neighbor. So, like Bruce.
Never a dull moment when Bruce Raboin's around.
And I was, you know, the other day when we did that 1978-79 football team, and I used to give Bolstead, I says, I bet you like that quarterback sneak, huh? He didn't need the quarterback sneak. He had Raboin to give the ball to, and Rabs just kind of ran over everybody. And so at first I thought, geez, Mike's a big guy. He'd be a great quarterback sneaker. He didn't have to. And so I was laughing when I was thinking about that. This is no reason to make work when you don't have to.
U.S. Curling Championships start on Monday in Duluth. So if you're a curling fan, get out there and watch a little curling. I've got my ticket. I'm ready to go.
There you are.
My Target Sports, as you said last week. So what else you got?
Let me see.
Couple of new NFL football coaches.
They are. We got
Pete Carroll's
Pete
going
Carroll
to be
Las Vegas.
He's going to be 74 before the season starts. He'll be the oldest coach in NFL history
and
if he makes it to the start of the season.
And young Schottenheimer takes over the Cowboys, and I was a little bit surprised at that because there's so many ex-Cowboys that were looking at that coaching job.
You mean like Deion Sanders, for example?
Deion Sanders, and
I was shocked that they went that route. I thought they'd go big splash, big whatever. The thing about it is Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator and didn't get to call plays because McCarthy's called the plays as the head coach.
Yeah.
So now he'll get to call the plays and he'll last one season and then he'll be gone.
Well, I
I'm
understand.
sorry. That's my prediction.
I understand they're keeping their defensive coordinator.
No, I did not know that Mike was going to get to stick around.
I think Mike's going to get to stick around. So.
Well, with a new head coach, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
How him and Brian get along. Mike Zimmer, former Viking coach, and he ticked a lot of people off here. And I'm not a Mike Zimmer fan anymore.
Well, I'm not that either. But I was always a Schottenheimer fan. And it's just like
Dad was with Cleveland and Kansas City
and Miami, and just like you just saw this guy, and he always looked like he was in command. So I was kind of surprised by that. But
I have to admit I was surprised.
So then the Bears they're going to take Brian Flores away from us.
Is that the rumor, or is that a fact?
I don't know. That's the rumor. If we kept Brian Flores around another year, I would be amazed.
Well, if we offered him maybe $8.15 million, would he stick it?
He might.
And he probably would. Yeah, Detroit, both their offensive and defense coordinators got head coaching positions. So Detroit, the Motor City Kitties will go about 7-10 next year and miss the play.
Coaching staffs are important, and we forget about that. Nobody knows their names, but they're really big.
Because what's going to happen with Detroit now? It's almost like starting over with the coordinators and who they want to bring in as their position coaches. It hurts. It's an effect, and losing Brian Flores obviously would have a big effect on the Vikings if that is the case for what they decide to do.
Yeah.
He's digging through his notebook.
I'll just see if I have anything else down here. Minnesota wrestles on Northwestern on Big Ten Network Plus at noon on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah.
I might have to try to fit that into my napping schedule.
And we've got to say goodbye to one person, but...
who was that?
Willard Eichela.
Oh yes. I talked about this at the hockey
Willard
game.
Eichela, and he was so close to Larry Ross when they coached, and I remember the last time they played at International Falls, and Ross was coaching and Eichela was coaching, and Edina beat us like 5-4. Tough game, great game. And the next day, I said to Coach Ross, I says, "Pops, what a hockey game." And he looked at me, and there was a snarl in his eye, and he says, "It might have been fun to watch." And I realized, this was his last year coaching, just how really intense of a coach he was. I forgot. I knew that because I'd been around him for a long, long time. But he had that snarl, and he did not want to lose that hockey game, and he didn't want to lose it to Willard Eichela.
Goaltenders. They don't like each other.
No, yeah, it was.
It was very interesting. This whole conversation. I want to continue with more Eichela stuff. But last night, Prairie Center came up, and when our girls team played down there 3 weeks ago, they learned that our head coach, Aaron Hall, is a Nagurski.
Yeah.
And so they were wondering, did the Bronco Nagurski come first, or did the Bronco high school thing come? And so he had it explained to him, and so I re-explained it to their coach. And then we were upstairs, and he didn't know that Dean Blaze had been the head coach for the boys team back in the 90s. And he's like, "Man, you guys have had some people around here who are pretty famous." And I'm like,
not only famous but top class type people. I mean, there's
So-
there's nobody I admire more than Dean, and I've known him since he was a kid, and he's growing up into a Hall of Fame coach and just a super guy, and it's and I understand that Willard Eichela and his family, they were all class acts. The Ross children and the Eichela children played together and knew each other very well, but the families are really, really close. And you know how good friends are? They're super good friends until you start competing, and then it gets a little bit tense.
And then when the game is over, then you're supposed to go back to shaking hands and being friends again.
Yeah, 3
right?
days. It takes 3 days. But
There's the 3-day
it's
policy.
3-day policy. but I will never forget when Larry Ross says, "Yeah, it might have been fun to watch," and it was a great
It probably
hockey game.
was.
Yeah.
So good enough.
Yeah.
We made our picks.
We got our picks. It's 10:30. We've been here already.
Yeah, it's almost an hour we've been at it. So
Yeah.
we'll try to keep it so it fits into the TV schedule on Channel 7 in the right frame of mind and
We
everything.
will
else.
have a lot to talk about next week. Will be our Super Bowl edition.
Icebox days going on. I don't know if you had to wait for the runners, but I had to wait for the runners.
I had to
crossing
drive
Highway
down the other
53.
side of the lane because Sue said to me, "It's going to be slippery. There's going to be runners, and bikers don't hit anybody." And so
That's good, solid advice from
good,
your
solid
wife.
advice.
She's very smart.
yeah, she is
She's
that.
very smart. So,
Yeah.
all right, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.